The New York Times today published a report on independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s health issues, including a dead worm in his brain, or, as that's known in libertarian circles, a running mate.
So a shout at the libertarians. But libertarians, come on. What's a libertarian? What is a libertarian? Is a conservative that smokes pot. Is that right? That's what they say. I didn't coin that or anything, but a lot of people say, hey, who is the leading jihadi in the world? Who is the number one? And when it comes to the global jihad, you think it's the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, maybe? You think? You gotta say ha. Ha. Try the soup. Ha. Where's the spoon? Who do you think is the lead jihadi in the world? You think it's the Ayatollah in Tehran? I say Tehran. I like to add a syllable to it. I don't really. That's kind of like Kiev to me. I don't say Kiev. It's Kiev. Just shut up. You know, it's not Paris. It's not Deutschland. And it's not Kiev. Maybe it's the head of Hamas that's the number one jihadi in the world. Do you think maybe it's the number one jihadi? Come on, huh? I'm not entirely sure who the number one. Well, but I wasn't until this morning. And now I do know who the number one jihadi in the world is. Do you know, Michael, who the number one jihadi in the world is? Getting a Lucite block this afternoon at an award ceremony. That's right. It's Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the most important jihadi in the world. Another great victory for the Democrat Party. They call themselves liberals. Don't believe them. They're not liberal at all. This is here is the Israeli Minister of National Security, their national security person, like their national security advisor, whose name is Itamar Ben Gabir. And Itamar Ben Gabir has he's got an X account, of course, and he wrote last night, early this morning, Hamas heart Biden. Hamas, and he got one of these emojis. It's a big red heart. It's not a little one. It's a big red heart. Hamas heart Biden. Because Biden, you see, he's announcing that if Israel defends itself against Hamas, which is backed by Iran, then the United States of America will cut off all military aid. No bombs for you. And the front page, the cover of the New York Post today, the headline, giant word, betrayed, with a photograph of Joe Biden sitting on a chair across a table from Benjamin Netanyahu, and Joe Biden's got his cue cards, his cheat cards. Biden vows to cut off weapons if Israel tries to finish off Hamas. Great news for Hamas, great news for the Ayatollah in Iran. But really, they couldn't do this without Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the guy. Robert Gates, the former Defense Secretary and CIA Director, both Republican and Democrat administrations, famously said that Joe Biden's been wrong about every major foreign policy issue and decision for more than 40 years, and Joe Biden continues to be wrong about every foreign policy issue, and now he's the president of the United States. Betrayed is the headline. Vows to cut off weapons to Israel in the middle of their war against a genocidal death cult called Hamas, backed by Iran. Of course, Iran depends on the U.S., the Democrats, from Barack Obama to Joe Biden, for billions and billions to fund the jihad, the worldwide jihad. Joe Biden gave Iran $6 billion recently for 5 hostages that they were holding. Remember back in the day when we didn't negotiate with hostages and we don't trade money for hostages, and they still attack Ronald Reagan. Oh, it was arms for hostages. And he said that he didn't think that was the deal. But they do it out in the open now, and they're very proud of it. And they'll still attack Reagan for things that happened 45 years ago, but never mind that. Yeah, so Itamar Ben Gabir, the Israeli war cabinet, Hamas heart Biden. Biden is the number one hero of Hamas. Israel betrayed by Biden. Biden is not, he's not on our side. These people are just not on our side. They, how many times do I have to say it? It's so true. So we've got Joe Biden, the number one jihadi in the world, and that's just the sad truth of it all. And we have Israel going into Rafah and messing with, because that's where the brigades of Hamas murderers are located. And Joe Biden handed them, he did this really ridiculous interview with CNN yesterday, which is so embarrassing that the idiot anchorwoman will doubtless get all kinds of golden statuettes and lucite blocks and a pay raise for the suck-up job that she did. Honestly, she should be out on the street in fishnet stockings saying, I'm a journalist available for presidential interviews. Pretty amazing stuff. I love those fishnet stockings. Don't you love those? Those are great. But never mind that. Joe Biden also said that in the CNN interview that when he took office, inflation was 9%. That's what he said. He lied that inflation was 9% when he took office, and he's made it so much better. And that is an extraordinarily dishonest and false claim by a serial liar. And then this dim-witted Democrat sitting across from him with CNN said nothing. That's what she said, because that's her job. And Erin Burnett, she'll get a lucite block for her shelf. She'll get a golden statuette because she's a fluffer from some valley in California that they pulled her out of to do this fake interview with the President of the United States and just let him get away with murder. I mean, honestly, if Joe Biden were doing an interview with Erin Burnett and he shot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, she wouldn't say anything. She'd just keep asking the question on the sheet and the questions on the sheet in front of her. So I've got pieces of this Joe Biden interview with Erin Burnett, which is a complete embarrassment to journalism, which is a difficult thing, and setting the bar pretty low or pretty high, depending on how you want to. But that is, wait till you hear the stuff that he lied yesterday. Oh, yeah, inflation was 9% when Joe Biden took office. Lying Sacagawea. I got to tell you, these people. Now, speaking of lying Sacagawea, in Denver, they have a left-wing mayor who was elected by left-wing idiots who are mostly super stoned on marijuana that is supercharged. It's not, your father's marijuana they're smoking. It's a different level altogether. But the illegal aliens in Denver, and Colorado is not a border state, but there are tens of thousands of illegal aliens there. And the illegal aliens have sent to the mayor's office a list of 13 demands. They're demands, and that's what they call them. They've got a list of demands. And as you might imagine, it involves free stuff that other people like us will, in the end, have to pay for criminals and illegal aliens to move into your daughter's bedroom and shower with your daughter in junior high school. Just the men, though, not the women. And that's because the Democrats are in charge, and they're sick. The Democrat Party has become a sick institution. Just amazing. So a list of 13 demands for the mayor of Denver from illegal aliens that are encamped. Now, I think that there are left-wing organizers behind it, of course, and they're Democrats. They're all Democrats because the Democrats are not on our side, not by a long shot. And he's going to capitulate. He will prostrate himself. He will kowtow to them. He will get on the ground and grovel and roll and curl up, and he will do whatever they want, the illegal aliens, because the Democrat Party is not showing up for work. They're almost impossible to believe, but the key word there is almost. So we got that, and they've been learning from the troglodytes on campus, or the wannabe troglodytes on campus, who are aspiring members of Hamas. You see, some of them are converting to Islam. Have you seen this? Some of the students on campuses, some of them are converting to Islam and praying 5 times a day because now they want to kill the Jews so much. The Democrat Party is so close to being the Nazi Party. And they don't know it, of course, because they're not well intellectually or in any other way. But when I hear this story out of Denver, and they are learning from the people, and they're calling themselves an encampment, which is the same terminology being used on the college campuses from the pro-Hamas, pro-genocide, anti-Semites, the movement that the Democrat Party has started. And never forget that Adolf Hitler's party was the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. And somehow they've been able to erase that from history, but never mind that. And the number of Chinese communists, the number of communists from China that have crossed our border illegally is just extraordinary. We have, now let me just show you with this. Joe Biden's first year in office, 2021, there were 342 Chinese nationals that were nabbed crossing the border illegally. In 2021, 342 of them. So far this year, we've got more than 24,000 Chinese nationals. And they don't come here on their own. They couldn't afford to come here on their own. The Chinese government is backing this wave of illegal aliens from China. And here's the thing, we can't deport them because China will not accept people that we deport back to China. And we can't send them back to Mexico because Mexico won't accept. And Joe Biden's open border, combined with the fact that the Chinese government, these people can't fund their own travel from China, and they can't just walk away from whatever it is they're doing as slaves in China. And they come here, and now we're stuck with them by the hundreds of thousands because Joe Biden is, on the side of open borders and the globalists who want to destroy the United States of America. It is an amazing thing. Yeah, last year in all of 2023, about 24,000, it was 24,125 Chinese nationals. Again, 342 Chinese nationals in 2021. Then in 2023, 24,125. Now in 2024, we're already outpacing that. So far this year, we've already got more than we had last year and all of last year with more than 24,000. That's an increase of more than 7,000% in the number of Chinese nationals. They're communists and they want to destroy the United States of America. And so does the Democrat Party. So the Democrat Party, number one jihad party on the planet Earth. And they are here to destroy. And they're doing a heck of a job, I've got to say. Amazing stuff. And when the Israeli government is tweeting out, senior members of the Israeli government are tweeting out, Hamas heart Biden, Hamas loves Biden, you know that we're in a pretty strange place, the Democrat Party. Also, did you see the Democrats in, it was Portland, right, where they burned, how many police cars did they burn? They burned a whole lot of police cars. At least 15 police cars were burned at the training facility. And they're Democrats. They're anti-police, they're anti-American, they're pro-jihad, they're pro-communist China. The Democrat Party is not on our side. Just extraordinary stuff. And there's a group that is proudly claiming responsibility for the attack, the violent criminal arson attack. Portland Police Chief Bob Day and Mayor Ted Wheeler, another lefty, federal law enforcement agencies spoke about, they're calling it vandalism. Vandalism took place during a pro-Palestinian protest. And the idiot mayor there, Wheeler, who's a far left-winger, says, "We don't find this behavior acceptable, nor are we going to tolerate it," as he does not lift a finger to do anything about it. And it's just 15 police cars burned to the ground. Why would that be a problem? Gotta tell you, setting on fire at least 15 police cars at the Portland Police Bureau's training facility. Yes, sir. And what's the Biden administration doing about all this? Well, they're looking for ways to accommodate more of this and to stoke the flames, as it were. Bernie Sanders and another left-wing Democrat, Ro Khanna, planning on wiping out all medical debt in the United States of America. You know, like all the student debt. They haven't even gotten all this, like $100 billion in student debt, and the Supreme Court said it's illegal, but they don't care. They're doing it anyway. And the news media goes along with it. because they might as well be burning police cars themselves. Now Bernie the Bolshevik and Ro Khanna, radical extremists, planning on eliminating medical debt in the United States of America because the communists are here. AstraZeneca pulls their COVID-19 vaccine from the market. Just don't say that it causes blood clots or anything like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, got an update on that. And the Kennedy cover-up. We are at 888-630-9625. President Trump has already spoken this morning outside the courthouse in New York, where the radical left lynch mob assembles every day they can because they want to jail or hang their political enemies because they're the left. In fact, I laughed out loud at the front page of the Washington Post today, which happens a lot. Laughed out loud on the front page. The headline is, Russia Remastered. Can you say mastered? Because that makes me feel very uncomfortable, you know. Under Putin, liberalism is no longer on the syllabus. No kidding. Really? You think commies and liberalism don't go well together? Maybe that should bring the Washington Post to start discussing Bernie Sanders and his plans, because that's crazy. Now, I don't know if they're aware of this at the Washington Post, and Mary Lushina, who ought to know better, communism is the opposite of liberalism. It's not liberalism at all. It's totalitarianism, and Putin is a killer commie, former KGB colonel, and there was never anything liberal about him. And by the way, liberalism was never on the syllabus in Russia. Never. There was never a moment where liberalism was on the syllabus. What, you think during Yeltsin or something? Don't be ridiculous. During the Soviet days, that's not liberalism. That's totalitarianism. When the Soviet Union allegedly collapsed, but really it just moved over here and became the Democrat Party, liberalism was not on the syllabus then. It's never been on the syllabus in Russia. The Soviet Union, 1917 forward, the Bolshevik Revolution, Lenin and Stalin and the whole gang. Liberalism was never on the syllabus, but in the Washington Post, they lie about everything all the time. Amazing stuff. Also, they've got their lead story today is border closure cuts off aid flow. Israel seized Rafah crossing into Gaza. Agencies warn supplies running dangerously low because the jihadis can't feed themselves. President Trump just commented on this moments ago. Going to share that with you. And Joe Biden's big CNN interview coming up. He's crazy. A real newspaper in Washington, D.C., unlike the Washington Post. The Washington Times. Their lead story is tawdry testimony, just a blip for Trump. Pollsters find more interest in inflation, abortion issues. But they just keep trying. They just keep trying. The Democrats and their lynch mob, crooked judges and crooked prosecutors. I said prostitutes, and it was a little Freudian slip. Unintentional, but definitely Freudian. Also, they've got a front page story above the fold showing the destruction in Ukraine of the rubble where a building used to be and a man wandering through it. Russia escalates infrastructure war. Relentless assaults on Ukraine grid. Cut off services, power to civilians. There are no chance to end the war. They're not chanting ceasefire in Ukraine, ceasefire with Russia. Even though hundreds and hundreds of thousands of human beings have been massacred in the war that Putin, and again, the Washington Post today, wanted to observe that Putin isn't a liberal. No kidding. You guys are a whole lot of years behind the curve on this. I don't know where you've been. You should probably listen to my show. You'd be a lot more well-informed down at the Washington Post. Remarkable stuff. But I want to get to Joe Biden because Joe Biden did this fluff interview with a fake CNN anchor who's not a journalist at all. but a Democrat Party fluffer. And she sat down with Joe Biden, and they just looked at each other making goo-goo eyes. They're really excited to be sitting down with one another. And Erin Burnett is her name. She shouldn't be paid to be a journalist, that's for sure. But let me just go into some there, and we'll hit on the major topics as we go because they come up. But some of the lies that he tells are striking enough where Erin Burnett should have spoken up. But she's a fake journalist. She's just a Democrat hack with a microphone and a camera crew pretending to be a journalist. Let's go to soundbite number one as Erin Burnett of CNN asked Joe Biden about the economy, because the economy, they keep telling us that the economy is great. The Democrats and the media keep telling us, but I repeat myself, keep telling us that that the economy is wonderful. You should just feel lucky to be here in the time of Joe Biden. In fact, a fun story in the Washington Times today on the commentary section. That 70s show, a redo. Is Biden taking America back to the age of Jimmy Carter? Yes, Jimmy, yes, he is taking us back to the age of Jimmy Carter. And inflation and stagflation and war in the Middle East and hostages, American hostages that Joe Biden's not talking about, nobody's talking about because the Democrats. But let's go to soundbite number one. Here's Erin Burnett and Joe Biden sitting down. This is why the White House agreed to go sit down with CNN and with Erin Burnett, because they know they're going to get a manual digital act of journalistic gratification performed upon them by Erin Burnett. It started like this.
It's also true right now, Mr. President, that voters by a wide margin trust Trump more on the economy. They say that in polls. And part of the reason for that may be the numbers. And you're aware of many of these, of course. The cost of buying a home in the United States is double what it was when you look at your monthly costs from before the pandemic. Real income, when you account for inflation, is actually down since you took office. Economic growth last week, far short of expectations. Consumer confidence, maybe no surprise, is near a 2-year low. With less than 6 months to go to Election Day, are you worried that you're running out of time to turn that around?
We've already turned it around. We've already turned it around. Paddles. They had to call in the paramedics at that moment to revive Joe Biden because he fell sideways out of his chair onto the ground like he was riding a bicycle. Fortunately, he was wearing a helmet during the interview. Now he wears a hockey helmet everywhere he goes and rides a 3-wheeled bike. Now he's got a 3-wheeled bike and got a hockey helmet, and he's got a bell on his handlebars of the 3-wheeled bike because Joe Biden. Now, she did set it up. If you want to buy a home, it costs you twice as much to buy the home, what with interest rates and the insurance and the down payments. And young people can't buy homes, and it's how you build a lifetime of wealth and generational wealth to be passed on. And that's done away with, and real income is down when you take into account inflation. And Joe Biden gasped, "Well, I already turned around." So Joe Biden, then he said that, no, people in Michigan think that everything's really good.
Look, you look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of the American people think they're in good shape economically. They think the nation's not in good shape.
The Michigan
they're
survey.
Personally in good shape.
Personally.
The polling data has been wrong all along.
The polls are wrong.
How many, you guys do a poll at CNN.
You guys.
How many folks you have to call to get one response?
You people.
The idea that we're in a situation where things are so bad. The folks, we've created more jobs. We're in a situation where people have access to good paying jobs.
Yeah, if you think delivering Uber Eats is a good paying job, and we've created more jobs, is a big lie. First of all, it's coming out of the Wuhan Red Death, out of Wuhan, China, which the U.S. government knew very early on came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. New documents reveal, not because the government released them, but because they were leaked. And an actual reporter got a hold of these documents showing, hey, wait a minute, the State Department said early on, oh yeah, this came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, but never mind that. So the jobs went away, And then when the Wuhan pretty much went away, the jobs bounced back because this is the United States, America. We have the strongest economy in the world. We always have, just because we're the United States of America and we're the model of free enterprise and capitalism, which the Democrats oppose and try to destroy and tear down. Hence, Bernie Sanders saying we're going to eliminate all medical debt, just like student debt, because they're commies. They're not free market people at all. Yeah, look at the Michigan survey. 65% of people say they're in good shape economically. Yeah. No, it's just they keep telling us everything's great, and if you suggest otherwise, then you don't know what you're talking about. That's what the left says. That's what information dominance is all about. Honestly, these people. Can I say these people? I prefer those people. Actually, isn't those people better? I think those people is better. Remarkable stuff. So Joe Biden, he says, no, things are really good. Now, Erin Burnett actually said now, and she starts fudging the numbers now, not starting with Joe Biden being in office, but talking about a much broader timeline. So it's just America and not Joe Biden's presidency that we're talking about.
But there's real pain. I mean, grocery prices are up 30%, more than 30%, since the beginning of the pandemic. And people are spending more on food and groceries than they have at any time, really, in the past 30 years. I mean, that's a real day-to-day pain that people feel.
It really is, and it's real. But the fact is that if you take a look at what the people have, they have the money to spend.
Yeah, see, you have the money to spend because we're all making so much more money. Now, she just said in the last Q&A that real income is down because of inflation. But then he says, oh, no, people have the money to spend. Now, here's one of the things about interviewing Joe Biden. It is possible that he really doesn't know because he's so limited mentally and intellectually that in the end, the left and the news media will let him off the hook by saying, well, he's senile. He's a moron. He has no idea what he's talking about. You can't hold him responsible for the state of the economy or for what he says about the economy, certainly, because his brain, she's a broke. She's a no good, that brain of his. And so why would you even consider holding him accountable when you know perfectly well that his brain is broke? So there are two possibilities. He's lying. That means that he is knowingly telling untruths. Or B, his brain does not allow him to understand the numbers that he's trying to discuss. And that is a very distinct possibility. You have to concede that. It may be that he's very severely brain damaged. But again, she said now, the price of groceries, she said, up 30% since the beginning of the pandemic. Okay, but what about since the beginning of Joe Biden's presidency, since you're interviewing the president? And up 30% because they're up more than 20% just since he took office. Now, Joe Biden is angry, and he loves going back to this thing that a Snickers bar costs more than it used to, but it's still the same size. Or maybe the Snickers bar costs the same, but there's a little bit less Snickers bar in there because somebody taught him the word shrinkflation, which every school child knows, means that you pay the same amount for a bag of chips, but there are fewer chips in the bag because everything's more expensive for the people making the chips, the potatoes, the transportation of the potatoes, because gas prices and energy costs and running your plant, your facility more expensive, employees more expensive, their insurance more expensive, everything's more expensive. And so naturally the price of a bag of chips is going to go up. But here's Joe Biden on the Snickers bar again.
It angers them and angers me that you have to spend more. For example, the whole idea of this notion that Senator Casey talked about, shrinkflation.
Senator Casey invented it.
Same price for a smaller bottle of juice or something.
For example, Snickers bar, they did a thing. It's like 20% less for the same price. That's corporate greed. It's corporate greed.
Greed.
And we've got to deal with it. And that's what I'm working on.
You're working on government greed. He wants more government greed. Corporate greed. That's an anti-capitalism line that the Democrat Party is peddling. No, that's basic economics. That's Econ 101. As anybody that's ever run a lemonade stand could explain that to Joe Biden. But Joe Biden was too busy showering with his daughter at strange and inappropriate age rather than running a lemonade stand with his daughter. Joe Biden. And here it is. Now, it's true. We have the strongest gross domestic product. We have the strongest economy in the world. We always have. We have forever and ever. We're the United States of America.
We have the strongest economy in the world. Let me say it again, in the world. I was
going to say it again,
GDP
world.
last week was far short of expectations.
Oh, it wasn't. Look, GDP still...
No, it wasn't.
Look at the response of the market.
He says. She doesn't say, yes, it was. No, you just said, no, it wasn't. And the correct answer is, yes, it was, but she doesn't correct him at all. Just amazing. Now, here comes the biggest, maybe the biggest lie of all, where Joe Biden says that when he came into office, that inflation was at 9%, which is a whopper, a gigantic, very serious brain damage lie. The reality is on Inauguration Day, inflation was 1.4%. Joe Biden drove it to 9%. During Donald Trump's last year in office, it was down to 1.2%. It went up to 1.4% by the time Inauguration Day rolled around because gas prices had already started going up because the energy industry was running for cover because Joe Biden had won the election. So prices had already started going up before Inauguration Day. But here's Joe Biden with Erin Burnett saying, oh, yeah, when I took office, inflation was 9%. And she lets it go like we're living in North Korea.
No president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%.
No, it was 1.4%, not 9%. But the liar with his depends on fire. Liar, depends on fire. And he said, he drove it up to 9.1% in June of 2022, but it was 1.4% in January of 2021 when he was inaugurated. And she lets him get away with it. And nobody's had a jobs run like we've had. No, we're counting the 12 million jobs that went on hiatus because we shut down the economy over the Wuhan Red Death out of communist China, funded in part by Anthony Fauci, who lied to us about it repeatedly, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the gain-of-function research that they were conducting there. But that is one of the biggest lies. And, of course, Erin Burnett doesn't say, no, Mr. President, inflation was 1.4% when you took office. It went up to 9.1% under you because she's not there to do that. She's there to get Joe Biden elected. And she teed up a couple of the actual issues, but then she is not serious enough. She's intellectually dishonest, journalistically dishonest, and maybe not intellectually up to the task. Maybe she doesn't come armed with the knowledge and the information that she might need to respond to the President of the United States when he offers up a lie like that one. Just amazing. Erin Burnett, she's really taken it to him, but I think it's Trump's fault.
Why should people here believe that you will succeed at creating jobs where Trump failed?
He's never succeeded in creating jobs, and I've never failed.
Right. Another lie. That's just not true. Untrue. He got the Wuhan Red Death on his watch. And so millions of jobs did go away for a period of time and then bounce back. And he takes credit for the bounce back because he was there. And he says when he took office, inflation was 9%. When in reality, it was 1.4% on Inauguration Day and 1.2% earlier in the year under President Trump. And gas prices were $2.11 a gallon, and he got them up to $5 a gallon, which drives food prices up and the price of everything up. But that's why you do your interview with CNN, because, again, they're going to lube up their fingertips and come in for the deep tissue massage and never catch you in anything. And the Washington Post is not fact-checking him and giving him Pinocchios today because they're not a legitimate newspaper, and Glenn Kessler is not a legitimate fact-checker. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. And Hillary Clinton was on Morning Joke today, lying up a storm over there, and they helped. We've got that coming up. And President Trump at court, and Israel, we've got all that, betraying our allies because they're Democrats and they love jihad. Jihad hates Western civilization, and so does the left. Let's go to Mike, calling from Middletown, New Jersey. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris. Thanks for taking my call. I wonder if Miss Burnett might have asked Mr. President, ask him, isn't it the government that's greedy that's causing this peace problem? I mean, he wants tax rates at confiscatory levels. And as Reagan once told Carter in the 80 debate, we have inflation because the government is living too well. Tax revenues are at their highest levels ever, but spending can't keep up with that.
Well, you're absolutely right, of course, about the government greed and the government spending, and $1.5 trillion here and $1.5 trillion there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money, to paraphrase a senator from yesteryear who used the word billions in its place. And they're creating inflation, of course, with the government spending, and they put out, I think, $1.5 trillion on this so-called infrastructure bill, Michael, and they've only spent a couple $100 billion of it because it was just a stupid number that they threw out there so they could brag, and the Washington Post could say, oh, look, they really care. They're spending $1.5 trillion on infrastructure, having no idea where the money was going to go. It became a slush fund for left-wing environmental groups and stuff. But a great Ronald Reagan line, Mike, with the government is living too well, going back to the Carter debate. And yeah, you want to talk about shrinkflation and inflation? Let's look at government spending and what they're doing to the value of the American dollar here at home and around the world.